Today, I'm making the most famous Easter dish that you've never heard of, or I had never heard of at least until a couple years ago. If you are Italian in origin though, I'm sure you've heard of this and probably eaten it at least once during your Easter celebration. Today, I'm making pizza rustica, or rustic pizza. This is not the same dish that you are probably picturing when I say pizza. The closest way I've gotten to describe it is as a pizza cheesecake, or a cheesecake-y pizza. It does have all sorts of delicious meats and cheeses and a delicious crust, but that's where the similarities end. Pizza rustica is Neapolitan in origin and comes from the Middle Ages. It was created to celebrate Easter and mark the end of the Catholic holiday Lent, during which time meats and dairy were strictly prohibited. So this indulgent, delicious, show-stopping Easter meal is really a celebration meal, and I think you'll find you might only need it once a year. The pizza rustica that I make is packed with 3 different Italian cheeses, 3 different Italian meats, cream, and a whole bunch of eggs. The crust is a pastry crust and not a yeasted crust, so it's a little bit more like a quiche in that way, but it's made in a 9-inch springform pan. So you end up with an eggy, meaty, cheesy center, fully enclosed top, sides, and bottom in a flaky pastry crust, and it is one of the best things I've ever eaten, and the perfect celebration meal for Easter. If you're traditionally a ham on Easter kind of person, I'd encourage you to at least give this one a try. It is absolutely well worth it. And while there are a couple steps to the recipe today, it's not actually that complicated. Maybe it takes a little bit of practice, but believe me, the payoff in the end is absolutely worth the time, and an easy thing to make ahead. You can make this up to a couple days ahead, and it will be just as delicious as the day you made it. You have to let me know in the comments down below though. Have you ever had pizza rustica? Did you grow up with it? What do you include in yours? I understand that there are tons of different ways to prepare this, all sorts of different ingredients. Always curious to learn from you what your favorite recipe is. Please let me know in the comments down below. So let's get into this pizza rustica and clear the decks to make crust. So the ingredients to this crust are very basic crust ingredients: a little bit of ice cold water, cubed butter that has come straight from my fridge. That's important for a flaky crust, to keep your ingredients cold. A little bit of salt, all-purpose flour, and a couple of eggs. So first step is to add a little bit of salt to our flour. Give that a mix. Get some on the bench, of course. And then we're going to work in the butter. Use my nice clean hands to coat all of these cubes. And then when the cubes are coated, I start to simply roll them between my fingers and mash them together. We're just trying to break up that butter a little bit, but not completely. We still want a pretty shaggy dough here to create some lift and flakiness in our pastry. If at any point during this you find that your butter's starting to melt, stop, toss it in the fridge. Or if you have really hot hands, you might consider investing in a pastry cutter. That will do the same job, but without warming the butter up at all. Okay, that looks about perfect for me. So you've got some shaggy bits, some bigger bits, and some small bits. And there's still a little bit of dry flour in the bottom of this. I'm just getting my hands down to the bottom, kind of tossing it around. Okay, next, I'm gonna create a well in the bottom of this and crack in 2 eggs. And then using that same fork, beat the eggs a little bit. And then I'm going to use the fork to mix that egg mixture into the flour. Okay, it's starting to come together nicely, but it definitely needs some water. And I usually use a couple tablespoons of water. Just going to dribble some water in. I'm going to go 2 tablespoons at first, because I can tell that it needs that much. And then we're going to mix. Okay, so now that most of that water is incorporated, I'm going to get it with my hands. I can't tell how much water is necessary until I start to try to bring this together with my hands. Again, I'm still going to continue working quickly. You can see the dough starting to come together. I don't think it's quite there yet. Still a little bit shaggy. So we're going to go for just 1 more tablespoon of water, and I think that will do us just fine. If it's easier for you, you can turn this out onto your bench and do this work there. We're not trying to knead it. We're just trying to bring it together into a ball. This is then going to chill in our fridge. Our dough has been chilling for about an hour. You can speed that process up by putting it in the freezer a little bit if you want. And now we've got to do some rolling and a little bit of math. So I want the sides and the bottom of this 9-inch springform pan covered, as well as 1 single small ring on the top covering the top. I'm going to crimp those 2 crusts together, so it's going to be fully enclosed in dough. So I'm going to roll out 1 circle that's about 15 inches, 16 inches, depending on how wide I can get it, just so I have enough dough to slump down into the pan. And then I want 1 other circle to go over the top that's about 10 inches, so that I've got some extra just in case anything happens. So I'm going to start with that smaller single circle, the 10-inch circle. And the way I'm going to do that is take about 1/3 of this dough, so I'm just going to eyeball it there. And the reason I like to start with this one first is because first I can put this back in the fridge. keep it cold. But second, because if I have extra dough in this one, I want to include it in my larger ring of dough, just to make sure that I've got enough dough to cover the sides and the bottom. We're going to try to roll this out to about 10 inches using a little bit of flour on the bench, a little bit of flour on my rolling pin. This rolling pin is really handy because it has measurements along the side, so this is all I need. But I like to start with just a round disc. It's easier to start with something round if you want to end with something round. And then I'm just constantly moving it as I roll it out. If you get any cracks in the corners, the edges, just push those back together with your fingertips. So I'm just going to toss this on top, leave a little bit of a border, and then just cut a circle. Perfect. Okay, so this now goes on a piece of parchment. And it is going to chill in the fridge while I roll out the second piece. Yeah, we're gonna be close, but I'm gonna give it a try. Just kind of rolling my dough back and then starting close to the corner, rolling the dough in. You want to really gently and quickly slump your dough in. You're not trying to stretch at all. It's a slump, not a stretch. Okay, this is looking pretty darn good. So I'm gonna put this, just messy as it is, in the fridge to chill. It's gonna be ready for us nice and chilled when we get our filling put together. Into the fridge this goes. It's filling time. First, we're going to do egg yolks plus all of our mix-ins, give that a big stir. Then we're going to whip our egg whites to firm peaks, and then we're gonna fold the two things together. That helps to both give a lightness to this dish, even though it is super indulgent, but also give it a little bit of lift. So it's a really nice addition to separate the eggs, which I've already done, 6 yolks, 6 whites off to the side, and then mix the components separately. So in this big mixing bowl, I have 6 egg yolks. To that, I'm gonna add just a couple tablespoons of cream. You could add milk here too. You probably could also add some stock. The cream makes it a little bit richer. Not that we need it, but it's a nice touch. And then I'm gonna add in our drained ricotta. And this is not totally dry. I don't want to take all of the liquid out of it, but by pulling it on the cheesecloth over this bowl, I have gotten a fair amount, probably about 1/4 cup of the liquid out. So I'm just gonna put this directly into the bowl with my yolks. Perfect, those two things are together. Now I'm gonna grind in a whole bunch of pepper. I don't tend to use any salt in this. We've got all sorts of different types of meat, all sorts of different types of cheese, all of which are kind of somewhat salty, so I don't even need any salt. If you wanna add some, just be really thoughtful about it. So in the bowl, we've got the ricotta, the egg yolks, some pepper, a little bit of cream. And then in front of me, I have our other 2 cheeses, which are pecorino Romano and mozzarella. And then I have about 12 ounces of meat here. This is soppressata, hard salami, and Genoa salami. And I've just picked a combination of the 3 of those. Prosciutto is really nice in this. Any of the other Italian salamis or meats are really nice in this. But you want to do about 12 ounces for this mini serving. And then I just have some chopped parsley. I use a boatload of parsley. This is probably about 1/2 cup. I like to see a little bit of green running through the background of this dish. You can also use, as I mentioned, spinach or kale. All sorts of things will work well here. For now, I'm just going to give these guys a mix. So I'm mixing the cheese, the egg yolks, the cream, until it gets a little bit lighter in color and everything's well incorporated. That is nicely incorporated, so I'm gonna add the parsley next and the rest of the cheese. This looks really nice. This is about the perfect consistency. It's kind of almost like, I don't know, brownie batter, maybe? Okay, so it looks nicely combined. The cheese is all mixed in, so now I'm gonna add in all of the meat. Okay, this component is done. Off to the side. So now I'm gonna whip up these egg whites. That's what we want. Next step is to combine these 2 things. I usually like to take a little bit of the really light and just not so gently mix it in. It lightens whatever you're mixing yolks, whites into, and this mixture is pretty thick. So it's gonna lighten it up a little bit. Just gonna make it a little bit easier for us to mix those light, fluffy whites into. Now all of the whites go into the meat and cheese mixture. With a gentle hand, I'm gonna fold these 2 things together, getting down to the bottom each time. It's impossible not to knock a little bit of the air out, but you want to try to maintain as much as you can. Okay, bringing our bottom crust center stage. Just going to kind of press to the sides there, make sure everything's together. If I see any holes, I would patch those, but everything was looking really good. So now, just all of this goes into our spring form. Just kind of move that into any crevices that there might be. Oh, this looks so good. Our top crust is ready to go on. The bottom crust is here. I'm gonna glue these two crusts together, but the first thing I'm gonna do is take a knife and just using the edge of the spring form, trim off any of that excess crust that comes over the spring form. That'll make this whole process a little bit neater. And then I like to use a little bit of egg wash, which is what we're gonna put on the top of this too, to make it nice golden brown as glue. So I just do around the edge here where the two crusts are gonna go together, a little bit of egg wash. That makes our crust stick together just a little bit better. So I just gently lay it inside. I press it right down on top of that filling. And then using my fingers, I just roll the two crusts and pinch them together. You can use a fork here if you want. I like a fluted edge. I'm kind of always a fan of a fluted edge. Make sure they stick. And then I just crimp inside the spring form. Looks absolutely perfect. Okay, egg wash the rest of this baby. There is one last step. We need to cut a couple vents in the top of this so it doesn't explode. So I just take the back of a sharp knife and do classic kind of star-ish pattern. And there we have a beautiful Pizza Rustica, rustic pizza ready to go in the oven. As a habit, to put any springform pan on top of a cookie sheet, I'm confident this is well sealed and we've got crust all the way around, so we shouldn't have any leaks. But if you ever have had a springform pan leak, you will likely want to never repeat that journey. So better safe than sorry on some aluminum foil on a sheet pan. This goes into a 375-degree oven and it's gonna cook for like probably an hour 15 to an hour 30. I'm looking for the crust to be golden brown and then we're gonna let it rest for a few hours. So I'm not gonna see you for a few hours, but when I do, we're gonna be cutting into this beautiful rustic pizza. It is many hours later and our Pizza Rustica has cooled completely. I'm going to unmold it. Cross your fingers. So one note, there is a little bit of butter or oil that's leaked out onto my baking tray. Baking tray with the aluminum foil for the win on keeping my cleanup super easy. I just ran an offset spatula around the outside of the springform. Now it's time to unmold. This looks absolutely beautiful and it smells amazing. You can see all the meat running through, the parsley gives it a nice little green, the pastry is absolutely flaky. So let's take a bite. Pretty disappointed in myself that I didn't discover this until a couple years ago because I have had a lifetime of Easters that could have absolutely been leveled up with this Pizza Rustica. This is such a delicious dish, and while it is definitely indulgent and it is definitely filled with meat and cheese and all of the delicious things, it actually doesn't feel super heavy when you're eating it. The eggs make it a little bit lighter, and although you're eating a buttery, flaky pastry top crust and bottom crust, Italian meats, Italian cheeses, a little bit of cream and a whole bunch of eggs, it doesn't feel overly heavy, which I love. This is an absolutely delicious dish and I really hope you'll try it. Please let me know in the comments down below if you would try this or you have tried it. I'd love to hear all about it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it when you spend your time here. If you liked this video, please give it a like. If you want to see more from me, please stick around and subscribe to the channel. And I look forward to seeing you here next time. From my little kitchen dog and me, happy Easter. Does it smell good, Belly? You don't really get this. This is not for the belly dog.